Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Wednesday, March 13th, 2019. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions who are trying to get to the light, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many rules already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And those rules include focusing on our own soul plans, each of us for ourselves, however we define ourselves. Every I, every me, every us, every we. We are supposed to be focusing on living our own individual soul plans. We're all spiritual beings having experiences of sentience in some dimension or another. We define ourselves in some way or another. And we come into these experiences of sentience with a plan, something we intend to accomplish. Accepting responsibility for a life is a big deal. It's not something we do frivolously. We come in with a plan. Then we are born in this dimension of ground zero, planet Earth, human society. We're all born. We're not hatched or anything else. It's harder than we thought it was going to be, and we begin to play small in the game of life, and this is true for all of us. These particular host lives were part of an experiment of exactly 1 million souls on this test planet of planet Earth, in this dimension, a test dimension of ground zero. And these exactly 1 million souls, 1,000,000 souls, were given the Christ present soul contract, the same soul contract as the Christ presences for the planet. It was just copied and pasted over, and there were errors in font size and spacing that clued us in. It was just a copy and paste job.
That's true.
So it's the identical soul plan, and it was an experiment to see, can we get anybody to do what they're supposed to do, because we have a biosphere in crisis. Being part of that experiment, these two particular host lives have the assignment to not only live their own soul plans, but to help others find and live their soul plans as well.
That's true.
Most people in ground zero planet Earth, people of all species, not just humanity, they don't want to do it. That's the hidden truth, what's under the Band-Aid. When you pull off the Band-Aid of resistance, what we find under it is, I don't want to do it, and you can't make me. Which is true. It is true that none of us can make anybody else do anything.
That's true.
That's okay. To those presences we say, don't let the door hit you as you leave. Go do something else.
That's
if you
true.
don't want to try to figure out your soul plan and take steps to live it, then this isn't your right place. There are lots of things to do. Go engage with life somewhere else. However, in our healing practices, we do have people who come who are trying to live their soul plans. And our first session this morning was with a young man who's really trying to do what he's supposed to do.
That's true.
He can feel that he's supposed to do something to minimize the destruction of climate change. Do something with regard to healing the problem of climate change. And he's approaching 30, which is a milestone of adulthood.
That's true.
And he's engaging in a job search. And he's trying to find work in not-for-profits that do something that will somehow help minimize climate change. And the reason we're bringing him up is that it was a fascinating experience, the session. The very first thing we noticed is that his whole energy body was choked with what looked like coal dust,
That's true.
black fine dust that was hard on the breathing apparatus and made it difficult to see. And the first thing we had to do was just clear away this coal dust, which could be a metaphor for planetary pollution. It could mean a lot of different things, but what was clear in this session is that this coal dust is not helping. Let's get it out of here.
That's true.
And then the next thing that became apparent is that his guardian angels had completely lost him. And their feeling was kind of like they had gone into the Andes Mountains to rescue him. The Andes being a metaphor. They had lost him, and they were looking for him in this segment of the Andes, and then we clear the coal dust, and he's over here. And
That's true.
they kept saying, well, how did you get over there? Which did not seem like the most important question at the time. The most important question seemed to be, how can we get him from where he is to where he is supposed to be? Let's try to get him where he's supposed to be. And once he's there, then we can figure out if how he got there is something that might repeat, and then we'll resolve it. But first, let's get him out of there. And in attempting to get him out of there, there was some guardian angel who thought it would be helpful to hook him up to a little kind of like those things that pull roller coasters, cars up like a cable that makes clicking noises.
Yeah.
And so we hooked him up to this energy structure that metaphorically is like a cable that makes these clicking noises, and it started carrying him up and then jammed him into this like rock thing that slammed his energetic head, which we felt because through the merge we feel everything that the subject of the healing session feels. It's like, ow, okay, let's not do that. And we tried many ways to get through that situation, and finally the consensus was we need a hand up and over. We need to somehow get up and over. And then there were all these metaphors of unusual modes of transport to get up and over this obstacle, which because it's at head level, it might be an obstacle of thinking. That would be one of the ideas that we would consider, is he's got a pattern of thinking that's an obstacle for him, and his guardian angels are trying to get him past that hurdle of his thinking, and he keeps slamming into it, possibly, I don't know. We weren't, again, attempting to discern what's the obstacle. We're trying to get him on the correct side of the obstacle.
That's true. And someone's asking, then what happened?
Well, then what happened is interesting, because to get somebody up and over an obstacle like that requires assistance from above, divine assistance, and often there are big hands that will pick people up and deposit them on the forward side of an obstacle, and presences who will reach in with like a fish hook and fish people up, or a shepherd's hook, often fish them up with a shepherd's hook and deposit them on the other side of the obstacle. But what we had is a bunch of people who looked cowardly, and they didn't look like people upstairs.
Yeah, that's true.
Higher powers who didn't look like they wanted to do anything. So we stretched longer, asking who will help this young man who's got a lot going on and is approaching a milestone of adulthood, and who is trying to live his soul plan. He's at least engaged in the game, which puts him in the top 1% of 1%, we believe. The teeny tiny tippy top of presences on this planet. And how do we help him over this obstacle, which is possibly an obstacle in thinking, and possibly something else?
That's true.
And possibly it's an obstacle in his thinking, possibly it's an obstacle in someone else's thinking. We don't know. We finally found somebody upstairs who was willing to do a very tiny little thing in a very meek and kind of cowardly way.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody else said, give that presence a day or two to do something, and if not, we'll revisit the situation. And it was the best we could get from above, and that's not good. So what do we tell people like that young man who are actually trying to live their soul plans. And he was going through some practices to attempt to go upstairs and hear, and all he could get was blackness. And obviously we agree with that because of that coal dust that was everywhere.
That's true.
Which is part of the breakdown. Somebody's asking what we make of that. They're talking to each other. Someone turns to someone else and says, what do you make of that? And the other presence is talking about, this is just the breakdown in the astrals that we've been talking about for so long.
That's true.
As various dimensions collapse, and those collapses must occur to compress the accordion that has been stretched too far and is now unworkable.
That's true.
As the accordion compresses, there is inevitably debris that is kicked out, and it makes it hard to see. It's like walking through earthquake zones.
Yes.
And when there's so much pollution of thought and word and deed, so much breakdown of integrity, it looks like coal dust. That's what that guy says to that other guy. These two out-of-body presences, or less dense presences, or higher powers, depending what label you want to use it, guardian angels.
That's true.
So the client was trying to get upstairs using his own power, using his own energy, getting up there. He couldn't see a thing. It was all dark because of the coal dust. He's trying that. He's in the top, maybe 1/100th of 1% of the top of everything, trying to do it, what it actually takes to discover and live his soul plan.
That's true.
And all we find is one weenie coward who's willing to do a tiny little thing. What now?
No, what now?
What now? To help everybody live their own individual soul plans, to help presences find and live their soul plans, those who are even thinking about it, those who even want to. What now? And somebody's talking about the platitudes.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they're talking about the story, the party line that is played out in many spiritual communities, and it's just platitudes, and they aren't true. And somebody's asking how they're asking each other. We're just overhearing conversations that are occurring in the higher dimensions. They're asking how you know it to be true, and they're talking about all the people from all the various spiritual traditions who email us saying various and sundry things that indicate that their communities are still spouting platitudes, and
that's true.
And everybody's getting sick, like people are physically ill, and we're destroying our planet, and the skies are empty, and there's no birds. And it's not that there are no birds, it's that the flocks are gone, and that we're killing everything. We're more than 50% of the way through killing all other non-human life on the planet. We really need to focus on this. This is a big problem. We're in the midst of the great die-off, and we are responsible. It's happening on our watch and by our actions. And that is hitting all our karmic records without exception. What now? What do we tell the people who are really trying to do it?
It's very, very quiet.
It's very quiet. Let's try again. What do we tell the people who are really trying to do it? There's no answer.
I don't hear anybody.
There's no answer. And on this end, the ingratitude is everywhere. This is a society of humans in North America, a society of ingrates, actually.
No, that's true.
We have so much, and mostly people walk around with a grumpy, entitled look on their faces, and they're engaging in consumerism as if there's no tomorrow, and that's the death of the planet, really. We've got to stop this game of consumerism and stop playing games. What's the deal with video games? It's sad that so many people waste so much of their lives playing video games. That's not real. Is everybody clear on that? Is everybody clear that video games are not real? That they're fantasy worlds? And that there is a real world, or as real as it gets, with which to engage, and there is real work that actually needs to be done, And when you die, it's kind of like clothing and makeup. People are never asked, did you play enough video games? How did you do in your video games? What levels did you achieve in your video games? What the topic of conversations about video games is similar to hair and clothes and makeup. Is you spent way too much time thinking about hair, clothes, and makeup, and you spent way too much time playing video games. So just put them away. Just stop it. Go cold turkey. Give away your gaming systems. Let go of it. Get away from it. It's destroying your life. It's an addiction every bit as real as heroin, alcoholism, those other addictions that destroy lives. Video games destroy lives. Let them go. For him is the message. And why do you ask?
You know, it's kind of ironic.
No.
Those people who play all those video games say that higher powers aren't real, and they're playing video games that aren't real at all. And it's going to be so bad.
This issue of ingratitude is big. There's always something to be grateful for. That's something that we can do. We can, each of us, look for and find things to be grateful for. We have them in all of our lives. Not focusing on the things to be grumpy about, letting the focus shift off of that onto the things to be grateful for can do a lot to improve thinking. And once somebody has done that, then what? To live their soul plans and be who their souls want them to be. Once somebody has done that, then what? To live their soul plans and be who their souls want them to be. What then? The young man in question, to the best of our knowledge, gave away all his gaming systems. He already did all of that.
That's true.
He already did all of that. He's not wasting his life. What do we tell him?
I don't hear anything.
No. We just send that up. It does go way up.
Yeah, it does.